Welcome, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. You can see my screen. Okay. And if you didn't already know, yes, we're here to talk about calendar year-end closing and everything we need to do. But before we get to that, a couple of updates. Make sure you are working on your staff EMIS. The collection is now open. All of the local report card statistics, except for the attendance percentage, is taken from the first staff course collection, which closes January 31st. So make sure that you have gone through your checklist. We will be doing a training, an EMIS Alliance training on the teacher licensure certificate report, TLC report on December 15th. So if you're interested in coming with your EMIS coordinator or have questions about that, most of it's more for the EMIS coordinator, but it does go through if you have teachers that aren't properly certified to teach what they're teaching. And most of it is because of subject codes and coding of courses. So it's not as much coding for you, but make sure that you are looking at your reports. Make sure I need to send out the instructions that I created a few years ago on how to create pivot tables off of the files that come out of the data collector so that you can analyze your data and see how many guidance counselors, how many social workers, how many gifted and talented teachers. And if you aren't showing the numbers that you think you should be showing, then why not? Those of you that your districts have purchased cross-check, hopefully your EMIS coordinators are looking at the staff statistics, or they have given you access that you can go in and look at the staff statistics that will let you know that there are last year's experience is the same as this year's experience, which is one of the things on my next slide. Reminder that if a person comes mid-year or leaves mid-year, their FTE and their salary should only reflect the portion of time that they were employed, not the full year information. We did go over the PowerPoint, and the document was discussed at the October meeting. And one of the cross-check things will show, oh, I must not have incremented my experience because all of my teachers have the same experience this year that they had last year. And that is a no-no. Verify employees who left, that they, if you did not report them with a separation date and reason in the final staff collection of FY22, that you're reporting them now with their separation date and reason, which ODE prefers the separation date of their last workday of last school year. And then the position status then would be a U. This is the only time you should ever use a U, is if they left prior to the beginning of this year, were not reported last year as separated, and you have to report their separation date and reason. If they worked any at all, even just one day this year, they should not have a U status. They should have a C or whatever their status is, most likely a C. And then verify and make sure you have your new employees marked as report to EMIS. When I work with EMIS coordinators on troubleshooting a lot of their errors, when we go through some of their excluded courses. And why are these courses excluded? We find two things. First, either the state staff ID was not put on the employee record, or what was put in student information didn't match what was in payroll. And so then both of you have to verify who has the correct one and make sure they both match. Or payroll never marked all three records that need to be reported to EMIS for this person as report to EMIS. And the three records are the employee, the position, and the compensation records. And then the final reminder is that the supplemental contracts, any supplemental contract you're reporting should have a position status of an S for supplemental. Any questions about staff reporting? Yeah.
Not gonna have a page number. Do I have to do something special to make redesign assign a Z number?
The question is, if I have an employee that doesn't have a state staff ID, how do they get the ZID? When the data collector pulls the data from payroll, if there is no state staff ID, it will create a ZID for that person and put it on the employee record at the bottom in the non-issued certificate ID field. It's non-something. I don't remember the label of the field. But you will see that on the employee's screen record. We have had a couple of districts that I do not know why. They have had a couple of newer employees that for whatever reason, none of their ID information is pulling over. So we end up having to put their state staff ID in the EMIS ID field on the employee record in order for that person to pull into the data collector properly. If you have that issue, there will be a fatal error on the CI staff demographic of no state staff ID. Are there any other EMIS questions? Okay. With the sunsetting of Classic and the VMS becoming no longer supported with any type of maintenance or updates, I have pulled all of your archived payroll CD and accounting CD data and EIS CD off of the VMS, and it is now in Bear under labels of payroll CD and FIS CD, I think, and EIS CD. I have tried to make sure everyone had the same access that they previously had. If you try to access those reports in Bear and you aren't seeing what you think you should be seeing, let me know. I did find one a couple days ago that, and I pulled all of the old archived EMIS reports over. And so if you aren't seeing data that you think you should be seeing, let me know and I can double check your access and make sure that you do have the access that you need to be able to see those reports. We could have loaded the payroll and the accounting CD files into the redesign, so all of it would be in the file archive there, but we chose, because of potential issues with disk space and processing time, that we did not want to risk slowing down the system at all, and we left it in Bear rather than loading it into the redesign. For Triway and Black River, you'll need to check with TCCSA and see what they are doing as far as your archive data being pulled off of the VMS. Jake has gone through and updated several report or file explanations, documentation, several pieces of documentation, and has them on our website. He has sent out emails, I think, usually detailing specific information that's in them when he got these done, but they are how to do payroll item mass load, payroll item mass change, new contract, and his new contract document and his mid-year contract change document are really nice. Actually, all of them are really good documents. Jake has done a really good job in updating the documentation. We also have documentation for contract payoff and deceased employees. Those I don't think are new updates that he have done, but these are important things that your district needs to go through and make sure you've done, because I know several of you have had employees pass away during 22. 20, 21, and 22 have been really bad districts, or really bad years for districts in the aspect of deceased employees. And so I know several of you have had deceased employees, and there are specific instructions you have to follow to make sure that everything is reported accurately for them. So just wanted to point out those documentation for that is out there. For the districts that have used Timeware as a time clock company, their owner passed away unexpectedly. The son took over. Things have not gone as planned, and I don't know if the company is dissolving or if just the districts are jumping ship and looking for other products. So there was a request by one of the treasurers, if you have gone to or are using another time clock system, could you share your experience at the fiscal advisory meeting next Thursday? So if your district is using a time clock company and system, if you would share with your treasurer any information you would like to relay so that they can share at the fiscal advisory meeting next week in the open discussion. And then for our districts that are on EFP, we are setting up discussions with what we're doing with the IPI-DIPI replacement. And for the time being, we will be using the kiosk and IPI-DIPI as you have been using, and we will talk with each of you about the status of what things are there. Any questions or anything else that any of you want to bring up among other districts? Okay. Now I'm going to turn everything over to Jake.
Okie doke. We're going to start discussing our calendar year-end checklist. I put a link on the slides, slideshow, going to our lack of documentation. I'm actually going to click out of the slideshow for now to kind of show you some of that. This is part of what Mary was just talking about, where I've added some of the new documents that you can access. What I'm trying to do is get rid of all of the classic documentation. Slowly but surely, I'm getting rid of that. And replacing it with more up-to-date redesign instructions. So this is where you're going to find all of that. We do have a section for calendar year end closing. The very first link is our checklist of procedures. We also have a lot of other helpful documentation that there's reference to within the checklist. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. Okay. All right, first page of our checklist is basically just a checklist. We've had a lot of requests to keep this around. So it's just kind of a handy, document you can use to check off your steps as you go through each process. Okay, step one, any districts who verify employee social security numbers. There's still not a redesigned submission file that you can go directly to SSA and upload to check. But if you go to SSA to check social security numbers, you can do so manually. We have some steps on here to filter your employee grid to see which employees might need verified, and a link to SSA to do that verification step. All right, step two. All right, we have a lot of bullet points within a lot of these steps. So each one is important. So just kind of bear with us as we kind of break these down. Okay. And if you guys ever want me to break out of the checklist to show you something within a database, just kind of let me know as we go through this. Okay. Payroll item configurations. This is a big one because this is kind of what dictates, what gets put on employee W-2s. First step in this is to check the OSDI codes. Again, this is under core payroll item configuration. I've got a link here to, for you to go in and look up each OSDI code just to verify that you're using the correct ones. W-2 abbreviations. We have a little explanation here on, what's recommended to put, as your abbreviations. This is going to be what shows up on the actual W-2. If you used a classic city tax report, we have some suggested reports listed here that are in your report manager that you can use to kind of check information as you go along as well. All right, next bullet point is kind of important for those cities that require electronic filing, and that is to verify your city tax entity codes. All right. Different cities may have different requirements, and we've tried to reach out to each of the cities that we know of that require electronic filing to find out what format they want the tax entity code in. And we have kind of put those here in a box. A lot of the cities are fine with a so what happens with the tax entity code is it's actually put in the submission file. And then it also is used to create the submission file. So most cities most of these require just a five zeros as their tax entity code. And we suggested making it, because this field is kind of unlimited, 5 zeros with a city abbreviation behind it so that you can kind of know what each one is, and make it different from each other. We've reached out to Worcester. They accept electronic filing, and they suggested using the first 5 characters of the city name. City of Columbus is a little different, and we've kind of created that here. So just follow this guideline when you update your payroll item configurations for those cities. because that's more or less what they've told us to use for those. If there are any other cities that you guys deal with that require electronic filing, please let us know so that we can kind of help you do that research and find out what it is you need to use for that tax entity code. Next, update the abbreviation for all city taxes. Let's see. Okay, next up, we have any RETA or CCA cities. I know that almost all of you have several RETA cities. CCA is kind of slowly fading away, but there are still a couple of cities that are still collected by CCA. So we have some instructions here on how to properly fill in the information on those particular cities. We have some links here so you can verify your 3-digit codes. So yes, be sure to follow those. We also wanted to point out that for RETA and CCA, they require the payroll item deduction type on each employee's payroll item record to have the either employment or residence field filled out. And it's also advised that you just fill this out for every city payroll item. So you can actually go to your grid and add this field to your city payroll item grids and see if you have any missing deduction type fields, and then you can add those accordingly. This is another big one. If you're dealing with CCA, they do require suffix abbreviations to be in a very specific format. We've listed those here. Since not a lot of you deal with CCA, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But that is also very important. CCA is very picky and they will reject your file if you have a lot of issues. Let's see, next up, verify your health savings account. Payroll items are set to a type of health savings account, and any annuities set to other. Let's see. Oh, annuity records are coded with an annuity type, the correct annuity type. So yes, basically this whole section is just staying in your payroll item configuration section and verifying that information is correct. Okay, step 3, verify the pension plan field on the federal tax record is filled out for each employee. This is something that you want to be certain to check for specifically like board members and students to make sure that's used as a no. But I'm going to kind of break over to our test database here just to kind of show you what you can do to check on this thing. So let me sign in real quick. Okay, so under the payroll item, core payroll item grid, you will want to switch over to the federal tax item. And from here, you can add, several fields. I would recommend using the more button to add like the employee's name, because for some odd reason that was not standard or default into this. But you could also add this field here called pension plan. All right. And of course, once you exit that, you'll have to select the federal item again. Okay. And then you can use this pension plan just to kind of verify who has what. Again, be sure to find your students and board members to make sure that they're marked accordingly. And if you need to edit, something like that, you can just edit each one and change the pension plan status here. Okay. Step 4, group life insurance. And I do know some of you have already reached out about this and are kind of getting a head start. So that's great. But anything over $50,000 is going to need to be reported on a W-2. So we have a brief write-up here, an example on how to calculate what needs to be reported. And I'm not going to, a lot of you have already done this, so I'm not going to go into too much on this. So once you have that calculation, what we recommend doing, what we highly recommend doing, is running this in one of your remaining payrolls, all right, as a current or future entry. And we kind of have the instructions here on how to do that. Make sure you select the pay type of life insurance premium. You'll note here for some of you newer districts that in redesign, they're doing away with a lot of the classic abbreviations like NC1. So you will choose life insurance premium as the pay type when you process this item. Okay, any questions on any of the first 4 steps that we've gone over so far? Okay, I'm going to turn this over to, I'm sorry, I should have scrolled down. Before I turn this over to Tiffany, if you do happen to make it through your remaining pays and the light bulb goes off, I forgot to process my life insurance. We do have instructions here on how to actually do some core adjustments so that those get put on the W-2. These are a lot more complicated and take a lot more time to do than just processing it through your payroll. So make sure you think about those items and try to capture all of those before you're done with your payrolls for the year.
Yes.
Okay.
Bad connection.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, cool. All right. So, all right. Step 5, we're going to process other payments and enter adjustments to payroll items. So this would be employer sponsored healthcare. The value of the healthcare coverage must be reported in box 12. And then it goes further into explanation. Life, dental, vision are not included if they're on separate plans. HSA contributions are not included in this. Scenario 1, scenario 2. I don't know if you guys want me to read through this. I doubt it. So, I don't know if Mary or Jake, if there's anything important to point out in there other than.
No,
Okay.
each scenario is spelled out pretty detailed. So if you guys have any questions as we kind of go through this and any of your individual situations, feel free to contact us if you're unsure of what you're doing. But a lot of these scenarios are spelled out, very detailed and thorough. So we'll just kind of go through these on a high level. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, so then we're gonna go down. That's still explaining the scenario. Okay, so we're gonna move on to, let's see. This says enter health reimbursement arrangement information if applicable. A qualified small employer health reimbursement arrangement allows eligible employees to pay or reimburse medical care expenses. So it explains how to deal with that, and what box it should go in with the proper code. Next would be fringe benefits. Now, fringe benefits would be like tuition reimbursements, something like that. If the non-cash table benefit pay type was not used prior to the last pay of the calendar year, the taxable benefits must be entered as an adjustment. I'm just going to say you're going to want to process these through payroll, because if not, it's a whole thing with these adjustments. There's this whole document, reimbursable employee expense scenarios. So you'd want to find your scenario and do the correct adjustment so that the fringe benefit is reflected correctly. But if you just process it through payroll, you're done. You don't have to worry about that. Okay. Dependent care. If you use the dependent care payroll item type, it tells you what you need to do. If scenario 1, if it's used during a normal payroll, you don't have to do anything else. And again, if you're not processing it through payroll, then it tells you how to go about doing an adjustment, a core adjustment. It also explains where this amount will appear on the W-2 in box 10. Adoption assistance, if someone has adopted and you're using the adoption assistance pay type, in payroll, again, you don't really have to do anything else, but if you did not do this and you need to, it's going to be an adjustment. And again, it explains where this will go in the W-2, what box and what code. Same with moving expenses. An active military goes about how to do an adjustment for that. Company vehicles. Now, we had a question yesterday that was kind of a good question about this. If you have created a compensation type and a position, and you've been paying a vehicle allowance through that, it would already be included on the W-2. This would be if the opposite of that. So if you haven't been keeping track of this and you need to do an adjustment to reflect the vehicle expenses. Third party sick pay tells you the 2 types, taxable and non-taxable, and again walks through how to do an adjustment and what payroll item it would need to be done on. And also what to do if Medicare tax was not withheld by the third party vendor, how to do an adjustment for that. Non-taxable sick pay, same thing, adjustment. Okay, step 6. Well, do we have any questions on any of that? Okay, step 6, you're going to want to verify and update employees on active military duty if you have any. Goes through explaining the scenario. Step 7, we're going to verify deceased employees. You want to verify, when the payment was made, if it was made in the year the employee died, and how to report that on the W-2, or if it was the payment is being made in the year after death, what to do. We also have the link to our deceased employee final payment document in case you need step-by-step instructions on how to process that. Okay. For step 8, most of you are, balancing your W-2 reports, but this is just another reminder to balance your W-2 report before the first pay of December, and check your errors. You can contact us if you have any questions. Let's see. And that's more on balancing the W-2. And then you're going to want to complete your last pay for December and print any reports you need. And then you want to go on to your month-end closing. And then step 11, you're going to complete your SIRS and STIRS reporting. And you're going to submit the SIRS new hire
There.
reporting. Go ahead.
Hey, there you are. Tiffany, we lost
Yeah.
you for a second.
You lost me.
Yep.
What
We
step
lost-
did you lose?
We lost you right after you explained step 8.
Okay. Okay. So step 9, you're going to want to balance the W-2 report after the first pay of December. And then step 10, you're going to complete your last pay of December and print any reports that you need. You hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Okay. So then, step 11, you're going to complete your SIRS and STIRS reporting. You want to submit the SIRS new hire reporting. It walks through how to do all of that to create and submit the SIRS per pay report. And how to submit your STIRS new hire reporting as well. And then step 12, you're going to want to balance the payroll account when you receive your statement from the bank. And it walks through all of those steps. Most of you are familiar with these processes. You do them all the time.
Mhm.
Okay. And then we're going to balance the quarter report for step 13. It walks through explanation of all that. And again, we balance the W-2 report, research and correct any errors. And let's see. Oh, is tuition reimbursement over $52.50 still considered a fringe benefit? I'm 99% sure it is because I've looked this up before. Let me see here.
Question in the chat.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you must generally pay tax on the amount over $5,250 for educational benefits. The question was, is tuition reimbursement over $5,250 still considered a fringe benefit?
Yeah,
And
and we
it is.
agree here that it is still considered a fringe benefit, so.
Okay. You're gonna wanna, step 15, balance the payroll item totals, taxes and annuities on the W-2 report. And you're gonna do that with the totals to the payables reports from the quarter. And then it tells you if you didn't keep the copies previously where you can find them in the archive.
Mhm.
And then for step 16, you're going to want to create and submit your ODJFS file. Tells you how to run the report and what you need to do to submit it. It's pretty detailed. Step 17.
So I
W
think
processing. Is this you now?
this is me, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, basically those last, I don't know, handful of steps, you guys do those every month or every quarter, so we've just included them on this checklist just to kind of keep them as a reminder so you don't miss anything along the way.
And a reminder on the ODJFS to, when you're updating your calendar, do not put work days on the default calendar and verify who is on your report so that you don't end up with people on your ODJFS report that should not be on there because a day was inadvertently added to a calendar that should not have had a day on it.
Right. Yes. So if you didn't hear what Mary said on the Zoom there, be sure that there are no work days on your default calendar. That's the root of a lot of our questions and issues that we have with these types of things. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the remaining steps here. And this is where things start to get a little tricky because this is something you only do this time of year. So Step 17 is going to be a long one. Very first thing we want to do is verify the W-2 configuration. I've sent several emails out on this to make sure a lot of our newer redesign districts have obtained the proper login information and things like that. But there's a configuration setting within redesign that needs to be completed. And this is something that all of you should probably go and verify that has been done. So under system configuration, at the bottom, there's a W-2 configuration. You will want to be sure that this checkbox is checked, that you will submit your own W-2 files. All right. You will also need to be sure that all of the fields are completed. The company name, and there is a note, and I wanted to point this out, that the company location address and company delivery address are both filled out on your configuration. If not, you will get an error when you try to create your W-2 submission file. But make sure that you have company information filled in, contact information filled in. This is where you will put your submitter EIN and your user ID that you have for SSA here. Most of the time, you're just going to check the box that the submitter name is the same as the company, and it'll just auto-populate this information from above. And be sure to save your information. Okay. So that is the step here to edit and verify the W-2 configuration. If you do not have a login to SSA and you need help obtaining this information, you can contact me at any time and we can try to figure that out together. But most of you probably already have that. Okay. Again, if you haven't done it, 20 times already, generate and balance your W-2 report. All right, this is just vital because we are almost to the point of submitting everything. So we want to make sure everything is perfect and ready to go before we create our submission files and our print files. All right, so one last time, balance that W-2 report. Okay. Next, create the W-2 print file. This is going to be a little different than what was done last year. Last year, you created a print file. It was an XML file, and it was sent to the file archive, and we could print straight from the file archive. Things are a little different this year because we cannot do anything with it with an XML file. We do not have the ability to use Edge. So the XML files don't really help us at all. They have created a new way of creating a print file that we're going to kind of go over here. And since this is new, I'm just going to show you in the software what you'll need to do. Okay, so under reports, W-2 report and submission. All right, you will want to go to the W-2 printing tab. All right, we kind of have this spelled out step by step here, but I just want to kind of go over it so you see for yourself what needs to be done. A lot of this information is going to be pre-populated. I'm just going to go to the default so that this is what you see when you get in here. All right, so a couple of key fields that you want to make sure you verify. Number one is the sort options. How do you want your printed W-2s sorted when we distribute those to you? All right, there are several options in here. Make sure you pick the option that you want. And we're having you create this print file because we want to print what you want. All right, we don't want to make any mistakes when we print these and distribute them to you. So we're just having you create the print file for us. So be sure to make, this is a big one, choose your sort options. Make sure that you're reporting for the current year. Okay, this is a big one too. So do you want certain fringe benefits included in box 14? If you do, you can check that box. If you want additional box 14 items, like specific ones reported, there's a drop down here. You can add those box 14 items accordingly from here. Just be sure to, I'm just clicking a random one, but select the one you want, click add, and it will add these in order of how they will show up in box 14 on the W-2s. So once you can add as many as you need, and those that apply to those employees will show up on their W-2. Yes. Got it? This is where that's going to be
I
done.
didn't do that last year, my first time.
The question was, if you wanted to add union dues, this is where you will add those to box 14, is right here. Okay. All right. So you're creating this print file. You're not going to run it for an individual employee. So just don't select anything and it will give us everyone. All right. Same with pay group. We're running this for everyone. So do not select anyone here as well. And at the bottom, it says generate mailable forms. Okay. So that's what we're doing, is we're creating the print file that you will eventually be sending to your employees. So you'll click that. Because this demo database we use, we haven't even ran a payroll in 22. I'm not going to have anything to show you. But what this looks like when you look at it is it will have one sheet of, like, it'll show each employee on its own, on their own sheet. It will have 4 boxes for the W-2s, just like they will see when they open up their W-2 in the mail, when you send it to them. So you see what happens is it generates a PDF file. Okay, that PDF file, the same as any report or any file you generate from redesign, will go to your downloads folder. All right, so if I go look at my downloads folder, I have a W-2 report for today and this is the file that we want. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. All right, so right now that W-2 file is only on your computer. All right, we obviously can't access that from your computer. So, and we don't want you to email it to us because of the personal information on there. So what we found as kind of a unique way for us to obtain that W-2 file is to add it to your file archive. A lot of you have probably never done this before, so I have steps in the checklist here on how to do that. But under the utilities file archive, what you can do is go to the the other tab. All right, and in this tab, you can actually add files, whatever files you want. This is kind of a catch-all for your own use. All right. So the other tab. All right, what we suggest is to create a new file. All right, and name it, what did I say to name it? You can name it something that makes sense. What we have is 2022 W-2 print file. Yep. Okay, and save. So what that'll do is it'll add a folder name to your others tab in the file archive. All right. Now this is you just created the folder. You haven't added your file yet. So when you edit that folder, there's a button here that says add files. Okay. So what you're doing is you will select that W-2 report that you created. Click the open button. And then now your W-2 report has been added to the file archive. Okay, so once you save this, now we will be able to access that print file and print your W-2s. Okay, and I just wanted to let you know, we will be printing your W-2s. If there's still any confusion on that, we will print all of the W-2s. Yes. Yep. Okay. So that process is all laid out and spelled out here. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that process? Does it seem overwhelming or difficult for anybody that has any questions? Okay. Everybody's good here. Hopefully that that works for you guys. All right, once you have that saved and you're ready for us to print your W-2s, just send us an email. All right, and we'll use that written request as a way of, you know, us printing what you want. Okay. We have a date here. We'll have those printed and ready to pick up by January 23rd. Our goal is to beat that by a lot. So, you know, a lot of that depends on, you know, when you have the print file generated and available for us, but we'll try to print those out as soon as we can so that you have those as early as possible. Okay. Print file is out of the way. Next, we will start generating these submission files that we're going to be sending to, that you will be sending to each destination. Okay, generating the submission file is, let's see, I will go back and kind of demonstrate this. Under the W-2 report and submission, okay, you will use the regular W-2 report option, except you will choose submission. Okay. You want to verify that each of these fields is accurate with the correct information, the correct reporting year. You will need, it is mandatory and required that you put a contact name, phone number, and email address in there. These are populated on the submission file. So it needs that information to correctly create those. We do have a chat. What is the deadline to send the W-2 file to LACA? Again, you'll be adding it to your file archive. You won't really be sending it to us, but we want those by, what was that date? Was it the 13th?
13th or 14th, I'm looking at it.
I think it's Friday the 13th because that's my anniversary. So,
Yes, Friday the 13th.
yes, Friday the 13th. That's the deadline that we would like to have those print files available to us. So hopefully that works for everyone.
Because not only do we have to print them, but we have to use the folder sealer.
Yes.
And LACA does not have a folder sealer, so we are still coordinating with Newark to
Borrow theirs.
borrow their
Yeah.
folder sealer. And because that thing is a royal pain, if any of you have folder sealers, you know how fun it is to change the knife settings on it. That it's easier if we can run everything through the folder sealer at one time instead of having to keep readjusting the knives. So we would like to have everything by the 13th. Our ideal would be to be able to earlier that week get the folder sealer from Newark and run everything through. But we understand there's some people that have a payroll on the 13th and may not. Actually, I think everyone's first pay of January is no later than January 13th. So you should be able to notify us earlier that week at the latest.
Yeah.
That W-2 print file is there.
Yep. So all of you hopefully heard Mary, but January 13th is what we're requesting everybody to have those available by. Okay. So as I go down and complete this submission form, you'll notice that I did put a contact phone number in there. I use no hyphens. So don't use hyphens or parentheses, just type the phone number in without any of those special characters. We've had those present issues in the past. So just wanted to give you that tip. Once you have that information filled out, you will leave all of these alone. And then the first button available says generate SSA W-2 submission file. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click that. What that's going to do is create a text file that you will ultimately use for your SSA submission. All right. Now, once you do that, unlike the print file, this text file actually will, in the file archive, create a brand new, and it's going to prove me wrong. Okay, in your databases, because this is just a test database and it probably isn't set up to work properly. But in your databases, there will be a 2022 calendar year end or calendar, I think it says calendar year end folder that gets created. All right. And then this submission file will be one of many reports that you will find inside of that folder. Okay. Oh, I guess I clicked on it too soon. It did create that folder in this database. Good to know. So once I open that, you will see not only did it create the W2 master text file that you will be using for your submission, it also creates a PDF report that you can use and verify and look at too. Okay. Okay. Now that submission file is for your federal, your SSA submission. You will also need to create a submission file for the state of Ohio, which is done under the W2 state, yes, state options. All right, Ohio is actually the default option, I think. So you'll leave that checked. You'll also have to input your contact information, and then you will click generate Ohio W2 submission file. All right. You will also want to make sure that your EIN and user ID are populated, which actually comes from that configuration that you previously did. So you won't have to retype that. It just kind of pre-populates it, but make sure it's there. Actually, it'll probably give you a warning because it's a mandatory field. So, okie doke. As also additional information, once you generate this submission file, it will also go to the file archive under that same calendar year end reports folder. That folder is going to have a lot of reports in it by the time you're done with this process. So pretty much everything except for that print file will go into there. All right. Okie doke. I don't know if any of you have any employees in any of the neighboring states, but those can also be created on that state submission screen as well. If you have one of those situations, you will probably need to let us know because we honestly don't have a procedure required for that submission. We would have to kind of work with you to figure that process out. But as far as we know, none of you have that situation. Okay, CCA submission. Let's see, not very many of you have this, but we'll kind of just show it to you. This is also done under the W2 report options tab. And you will fill out the information same as you have. And then to create that file, it is the CCA W2 submission file. And then the RETA submission file can also be created from here. Anybody with those configurations set up properly will be included in that submission file. All right, so that's CCA and RETA. City submissions, again, most of your cities probably you're dealing with paper copies or even a report. But if any of your cities require an electronic submission, there's the W2 city options tab that will be used for this. The key here is entering that tax entity code to get the cities that you need to report. You'll enter that here and then generate your submission file. Right now, all you're doing is creating the files needed to submit. We will here in a few minutes go over the process on how to actually submit those once these files are created. All right. So again, we have this little table here that gives you which tax entity code you should enter based off of the configurations that you've set up in the prior steps. Okay. Hopefully I'm not going super duper fast on this. So does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Okay, next, close December and open January. Most of you are familiar with this. We do have some post-closing step items that can be done. Just a reminder here to change any city tax changes that might be effective January 1. If you need any assistance, mass changing those, we can help you with that. I think also that document that I created on the website will probably be a good assistance with that process. We have a reminder here, if you have any out of Ohio submissions, you'll probably want to contact us on that. Just to distribute those W-2s. If you have any Affordable Care Act forms that need filed, you will need to do those as well. We also have some situations that we've listed here on after you've closed, that we could work with you on if any of these situations come up. So we just listed those there. Okay, now we're down to kind of our final step in this process is actually submitting your W-2 information. We have those kind of step by step here. We have a link to SSA. You'll log in and it kind of gives you the step by step process on how to submit those files. Ultimately, you may need to either if those are still in your downloads folder, you'll need to move them over when you do your submissions. Or if that's not available, you can also access those, like I said, in the file archive under that 2022 calendar year reports folder. And you could simply just download those files. Whoops. Be sure to choose the text files for those submissions, not the PDF files. All right, and what happens is those will download onto your computer, and you can use them from there to upload into your submissions. So yes, the SSA submission, we give you a breakdown on how to do that. And then also after a few days, how to verify that everything went through properly. There are some deadlines. I believe you have to submit W-2s to SSA by January 31st. Ohio through Ohio Business Gateway also by January 31st. And then most CCA and RETA are end of February from what we could find. And most of your city submissions are also by the end of February. I did want to kind of go into detail on some of these city submissions. Like I said, we tried to reach out to all of these cities to find out what they accepted. Oddly enough, and we're disappointed that a couple of them, Newark and Whitehall, still only accept CDs, which I don't even know if many of you have CD burners, but they haven't done any upgrades as far as their acceptance is concerned, so they're still accepting CDs. If you need any help getting those CDs created, we might be able to help you out on that. So just let us know. And then Delaware actually has an e-file upload that can be done. I don't know if any of you that have that. I did a little bit of research. I don't have a CRISP account, but anybody who has City of Columbus withholdings, apparently this can now be done using the CRISP site. So if you have a CRISP account, there's likely a way for you to electronically submit that file. I think there is you have to register for this maybe. So there's a phone number that I've put on here that you have to call to register so that you'll be able to do that electronically. But that's way better than the CD option that they previously had. So there's that. Let's see, Lancaster has an electronic submission. Which they had last year, so that should be okay. And then Worcester also, they actually said they would accept paper copies, but they prefer the electronic option. And they accept a USB or a CD, and they recommend password protecting those. And you can email the password to this lady her name's Dee Dee, I think. She's very helpful at the city of Worcester. So if you have any other questions, I think that finishes out our checklist. Like I said, we have tons of documentation on our website, and are happy to answer and help out with any questions or issues you have along the way. So does anybody have anything before I keep going? Okay, one thing that I realized just this morning, that I did not put in the checklist. I didn't think that it would be important, maybe, but the more I think about it, it maybe is. Previously, if any of your districts, and this is something you might want to add to your checklist just to verify. If any of your districts previously kept track of the COVID-19 amounts on the federal tax record, those are going to need to be cleared and wiped out. There's nothing in the system that automatically clears those on an annual basis. So you actually have to look and see if you have any of those amounts and clear them out. Since I didn't put any instructions in the checklist, I'll just kind of show you what I would do. So under for payroll item, I would go to my federal tax item. And you can actually add to your grid those COVID-19 fields, which they are down here towards the bottom. And you can add those to your grid. All right. And this is just to verify if you even have any of these. I don't know that many of you will, but just in case, because if you don't clear these out, they will show up on the W-2. You probably don't want that. So, once you return back to the federal tax item, let's go. Here we go. If you have any amounts that show up in any of those three fields, all right, you could either go into, if it's just one record, I mean, you could go into the field and zero all of these out. All right. If you have many employees that have fields left over from the prior year, there is a mass change that can be done, which it probably looks like this for you. All right. And if you hit clear federal tax COVID-19 fields and select that from your list, and then submit mass change, it should zero all of those out. Yes. Okay, perfect. It'll think a while, but it's going to update every single record that you have in your grid for zeros for those three fields. All right. And all of you should have this mass change available. If you don't have mass change turned on in your database, contact us and we can turn that on if necessary. Okay, sorry for omitting that in the checklist. It basically just dawned on me this morning that I forgot about that. So my apologies. I will actually add that somewhere in the checklist and republish a checklist to the website, you know, sometime maybe later today or tomorrow. All right. Okay, any other questions pertaining to the checklist at this point? You will have questions, so when they arrive, just send us an email or call us. We're happy to help the best we can. Okay. Again, when you're ready for those questions, we have used this phone number, 242-6023. that will go to both all of me, Mary, and Tiffany. So you won't get any random lack of employee answering the phone if you use that number. Unless we are very, very busy and we don't answer your call in time, then you might get someone else. But this is your best chance to reach one of us. Also use this email, and that will also go to the three of us. Holiday availability. We at least one of us will be here every day, except for the 26th and January 2nd. We're closed those days. And someone will be here between 8 and 4. So we'll try to have all of those times covered each day. Whoops. Upcoming meetings next week. We have our fiscal advisory meeting, and we will go over the USAS calendar year end checklist. We have a redesign district status update on the 19th of January. There have been some new additions I'd like to cover and maybe talk about what will be coming for 2023 and redesign on that in that meeting. Then we have our other meetings listed down here. If you guys need any special meetings or trainings that you would like to have for your district or think would be nice as a suggestion, just let us know and we could try to schedule something and work with you on that. Okay. That, I think, is all we've got prepared for today. Do you guys have any questions? All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon. Oh, we have a chat. Oh, you are welcome. All right, guys, have a good day. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye, everybody.